Hello, class. I miss you guys terribly, and I'm really looking forward to our Tuesday Zoom meeting. I'm hoping that during that meeting we can figure out a time that maybe we can meet daily, at least just to say hello. If not, maybe to talk about some school questions or academic questions, or frankly, anything that you want to talk about, just to connect on a daily basis. I would love that. Obviously, it won't be a requirement, but it's something I'm kind of striving for this next week. I also want to say a big, big, big happy birthday to Miss Emma Ball. I'm really sad that I can't be there to celebrate with you on your birthday or near your birthday, but I will say that when we come back to school, I am planning on doing a big celebration for all the birthdays that we missed and also all the birthdays that are in the summer. So keep that in mind. I am thinking about you, Emma, and everyone else. And I miss you guys terribly. It's really, really been hard for me. Alrighty, let's see. Where did I leave off? So I also need to say that there were one video that I tried to upload onto YouTube, and I kept getting an error message. It wouldn't load. So I believe now the videos are out of order for the chapters or for the page numbers. So that's kind of frustrating to me, but if you guys have been following along or if you understand where we are, I'll just have to keep going from there. So I'm sorry that it's not perfect, but I'm going to try to keep doing what I can do for you guys. All right, so I am reading off of page 172, still in The Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter, written by J.K. Rowling, my favorite author in the entire world. All right, so I will just stop at the start at the top of the page. I'm trying to think of what happened previously in the story. Basically, I think Harry was just told that he wouldn't be able to continue with Quidditch practice unless there was a teacher with him, because of all the worry around Sirius Black lurking around the castle. And so there's a lot of dialogue or talking of the characters based on that specific idea. So here I go. "Please, sir," said Hermione, whose hand was still in the air, "the werewolf differs from the true wolf in several small ways. The snout on the werewolf—" "That is the second time you have spoken out of turn, Miss Granger," said Snape coolly. "5 more points from Gryffindor for being an insufferable know-it-all." Hermione went very red, put down her hand, and stared at the floor with her eyes full of tears. It was a mark of how much the class loathed Snape that they were all glaring at him, because every one of them had called Hermione a know-it-all at least once. And Ron, who told Hermione she was a know-it-all at least twice a week, said loudly, "You asked us a question and she knows the answer. Why ask if you don't want to be told?" The class knew instantly he'd gone too far. Snape advanced on Ron slowly, and the room held its breath. "Detention, Weasley!" Snape said silkily, his face very close to Ron's. "And if I hear you criticize the way I teach class again, you'll be very sorry indeed." No one made a sound throughout the rest of the lesson. They sat and made notes on werewolves from the textbook, while Snape prowled up and down the rows of desks, examining the work they had been doing with Professor Lupin. "Very poorly explained. That is incorrect. The kappa is more commonly found in Magnolia. Professor Lupin gave this 8 out of 10. I would give it 3. When the bell rang at last, Snape held them back. "You will each write an essay to be handed in to me on the ways you recognize and kill werewolves. I want 2 rolls of parchment on the subject, and I want them by Monday morning. It is time somebody took this class in hand. Weasley, stay behind. We need to arrange your detention." Harry and Hermione left the room with the rest of the class, who waited until they were well out of earshot, then burst into a furious tirade about Snape. "Snape's never been like this with any other Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, even if he did want the job," Harry said to Hermione. "What's he got it in for Lupin? Do you think this all is because of the Boggart?" "I don't know," said Hermione pensively, "but I really hope Professor Lupin gets better soon." Ron caught up with them 5 minutes later in a towering rage. "Do you know what that—" He called Snape something that made Hermione say, "Ron!" "Is making me do? I've got to scrub the bedpans of the hospital wing without magic." He was breathing deeply, his fists clenched. "Why couldn't Black have hidden in Snape's office, eh? Could he have finished them off for us?" Harry woke extremely early the next morning, so early that it was still dark. For a moment, he thought the roaring of the wind had woken him. Then he felt a cold breeze on the back of his neck and sat bolt upright. Peeves the Poltergeist had been floating next to him, blowing hard in his ear. "What did you do that for?" Harry said furiously. Peeves puffed out his cheeks, blew hard, and zoomed backward out of the room, cackling. Harry fumbled for his alarm clock and looked at it. It was 4:30. Cursing Peeves, he rolled over and tried to get back to sleep, but it was very difficult. Now that he was awake, he tried to ignore the sounds of thunder rumbling overhead, the pounding of the wind against the castle walls, and the distant creaking of the trees in the forbidden forest. In a few hours, he would be out of the Quidditch field, battling through the gale. Finally, he gave up any thought of more sleep, got up, got dressed, picked up his Nimbus 2000, and walked quietly out of the dormitory. As Harry opened the door, something brushed against his leg. He bent down just in time to grab Crookshanks by the end of his bushy tail and drag him outside. "You know, I reckon Ron was right about you," Harry told Crookshanks suspiciously. "There are plenty of mice around this place. Go and chase 'em. Go on," he added, nudging Crookshanks down the spiral staircase with his foot. "Leave Scabbers alone." The noise of the storm was even louder in the common room. Harry knew better than to think the match would be cancelled. Quidditch matches weren't called off for trifles like thunderstorms. Nevertheless, he was starting to feel very apprehensive. Diggory was a 5th year and a lot bigger than Harry. Seekers were usually light and speedy, but Diggory's weight would be an advantage in his weather because he was less likely to be blown off course. Harry whiled away the hours until dawn in front of the fire, getting up every now and then to stop Crookshanks from sneaking up the boys' staircase again. At long last, Harry thought it must be time for breakfast, so he headed through the portrait hole, alone. "Stand and fight, you mangy curl!" yelled Sir Cadogan. "Oh, shush up," said Harry. He revived a bit over a large bowl of porridge, and by the time he'd started on toast, the rest of the team had turned up. "It's gonna be a tough one," said Wood, who wasn't eating anything. "Stop worrying, Oliver," said Alicia soothingly. "We don't mind a bit of rain." But it was considerably more than a bit of rain. Such was the popularity of the Quidditch that the whole school turned out to watch the match as usual. But they ran down the lawns toward the Quidditch fields, heads bowed against the ferocious winds, umbrellas being whipped out of their hands as they went. Just before he entered the locker room, Harry saw Malfoy, Crabbe, and Goyle laughing and pointing at him from under an enormous umbrella on their way to the stadium. The team changed into their scarlet robes and waited for Wood's usual pre-match pep talk. But it didn't come. He tried to speak several times and made an odd gulping noise, then shook his head hopelessly and beckoned them to follow him. The wind was so strong that they staggered sideways as they walked out onto the field. If the crowd was cheering, they couldn't hear it over the fresh rolls of thunder. Rain was splattering over Harry's glasses. How on earth was he going to see the snitch in this? The Hufflepuffs were approaching from the opposite side of the stadium, wearing canary yellow robes. The captains walked up to each other and shook hands. Diggory smiled at Wood, but Wood now looked as though he had lockjaw and merely nodded. Harry saw Madame Hooch's mouth form the words, "Mount your brooms." He pulled his right foot out of the mud with a squelch and swung it over his Nimbus 2000. Madame Hooch put her whistle to her lips and gave it a blast that sounded shrill and distant. They were off. Harry rose fast, but his Nimbus was swerving slightly with the wind. He held it steady as he could and turned, squinting into the rain. Within 5 minutes, Harry was soaked to his skin and frozen, hardly able to see his teammates, let alone the tiny snitch. He flew backward and forward across the field past blurred red and yellow shapes, with no idea of what was happening in the rest of the game. He couldn't hear the commentary over the wind. The crowd was hidden beneath a sea of cloaks and battered umbrellas. Twice Harry came so very close to being unseated by a bludger. His vision was so clouded by the rain on his glasses that he hadn't seen them coming. He lost track of time. It was getting harder and harder to hold his broom straight. The sky was getting darker, as though night had decided to come early. Twice Harry nearly hit another player, without knowing whether it was a teammate or opponent. Everyone was now so wet, and the rain so thick, he could hardly tell them apart. I'm going to stop there. So, once again, I look forward to seeing you guys on Tuesday at our Tuesday Zoom meeting. And once again, happy birthday to Emma Ball. And I will see you guys later. Big, big hugs sending your way. Bye.